Hello, and welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. How are y'all doing? Hopefully well. I am, of course, your host, Mark Kush Nez, and this week, on the Pixelated Sausage Show, I got a whole bunch of games to talk about. And I'll get to them very shortly because news-wise, I don't know what happened. Anything spanking. No, never mind. Just today, earlier this morning, I'm recording this Thursday morning, so the 10th? The 10th, Nintendo just announced that they will be discontinuing the voucher system promotion, I guess you would call it, at the end of the year? Well, technically, I think it was January 30th, 2026. So the end of January next year, meaning we've got roughly 6 months to buy up them vouchers and use them on whatever games you're missing and want to purchase. Obviously, there are some games that are more advantageous to use vouchers on. For instance, right now they have a sale going on with some Nintendo published titles, including Super Mario. No, it's just Mario Odyssey, right? It's not Super Mario Odyssey, or isn't Super? I don't actually know. But that's included Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, the NES, what was it? World Championship? Is that what it's called? And a handful of others. The two that I was missing were Luigi's Mansion 2 and NES World Championship. That's why I know those are part of the sale, and I also noticed that Odyssey was included. But those are games, at least in Odyssey's camp, in its side of the ring, those are games that don't go on sale all the time, but they do go on sale typically a few times a year when Nintendo has this big sale or that big sale. So you would actually save more money buying them when they're on sale as opposed to using a voucher, because a voucher is $50 for a game. So if a game is $60, which is all of they include some games that are $50 as well. Anything below that is not included. Why you would waste a voucher on a $50 game? I don't know. But most of the games are 60 sans the outlier of Tears of the Kingdom, which is $70. But when they put them on sale for typically 33% off, which comes out to, or I don't know if it's 33% off exactly, but it's usually, I think, $40.19. That is obviously a better deal than using a voucher. However, there are some games that seemingly never go on sale, or maybe have gone on sale 1 or 2 times in their 5+ year existence, and some that I think have never been on sale. I am, of course, if you are a fellow Nintendo fan, Nintendo player, and Pokemon fan, I'm referring to Pokemon games. Those games very rarely ever go on sale. I think the last time I can remember a pretty decent sale for Pokemon games wasn't even through Nintendo, but GameStop, of all the places, had Pokemon Diamond and Sapphire? Whatever those remakes they did a few years ago that weren't that well received, they had those for $40 a piece. I didn't pick them up then. I almost did, and I should have. But stuff like new Pokemon Snap or Pokemon Battle DX, whatever the hell it's called, those games have maybe been on sale once, maybe twice, but I can't remember ever seeing new Pokemon Snap on sale, and the fighting game is not something... Pokken Tournament? I think that's what it's called. I've never played one of those games, so I don't know. I don't follow them. I did pick up one of them recently with a voucher, though, because I was like, why not? And I will probably look at my wish list and scan through it for whatever games it would make sense to get a voucher for and map out the rest of this little window we have. So if you are a Switch owner, whether it is a Switch 1 or Switch 2, I mean, if you're a Switch 2 owner, you've got a lot of backlog games to go through. Just try and do a little bit of research. I don't know if there is a price tracker for Switch prices like there is for Xbox and PlayStation, though I'm always curious about the accuracy of those. They're all third-party sites, of course. You don't have Xbox or Sony putting out their own, hey, camel for the Xbox and Sony digital storefronts, but I'm not sure if there's one for the eShop as well. But if there is, just do a quick Google, find something, and check that. See if a game's ever been on sale. If it's never been on sale and it's been out for 5+ years, I think you can safely say it's never going to be on sale. And if it hasn't been on sale in multiple years, probably a safe bet to assume that they just said, hey, a sale's not going to drive purchases here, so just leave it as is. People who want it, they're going to pay this price because what else are they going to do? And move on. So keep that in mind. But your Breath of the Wilds, if you don't yet have that, or Odysseys, your really big ones, Sans again, Pokemon, because I don't think the most recent ones, what are they? Violet and Scarlet. I don't believe those have yet been on sale. And also, this isn't a voucher thing, but I don't think a lot of DLC has ever been put on sale. And you could definitely not expect any of the upgrades to ever go on sale. So if you are someone who has Kirby, for instance, and you're excited for the upgrade pack coming out soon, I don't think that is going to go on sale ever. It could, I guess, but I would highly doubt it. But that is the main news that stood out to me, at least, and I think is of some value to listeners potentially, because we all like to, especially in this time with inflation and not just games, but everything being more and more expensive and just getting more and more expensive. Any way you can save a buck is worth knowing. And so that's that. And if it's too late to mention this now, but on the day of this recording, Thursday, Newegg currently has a deal on eShop cards for 15% off when you purchase a pack of 250. So $100 worth of eShop credit for $85. It is worth checking Newegg regularly and just going there every day and looking at their shell shocker deals, whatever they call their daily deals, because they seem to like throwing in Xbox. They just had $15 off $100 cards yesterday, which would be Wednesday. For Xbox credit, I know how many people are actually buying games on Xbox and not just being a Game Pass subscriber, or who the hell even has an Xbox. The fact that Xbox raised the prices of their consoles and Sony didn't follow just makes the Xbox, again, I'm an Xbox first player. I love playing games on my Xbox. It is where I will call my gaming home. What did I just say? But it is where I will play games until they kill it for good, for real. However, I would not recommend anyone purchase an Xbox at this point, given the uncomfortableness it is of just the way they've handled everything with layoffs, constant rounds of layoffs. If that's not great, doesn't make a consumer feel good about supporting the platform. Can't imagine it makes any of the employees there who are still there feel good about being an employee at Xbox. And I don't know, it's just not good. And then the price of the console, it's not worth the price. I love my Xbox Series X, even though it fucking blows its fan like a psychopath. I can't understand why all my friends have not had that issue. start happening, the Xbox One X was quiet as hell and always was because it had that liquid cooling system. And then this has fans that are supposed to... It makes it sound like my Xbox is going to die. I'm always scared of it dying. And I hope it doesn't die. Please just live through the remainder of this generation for you, so that I don't have to buy a new Series X and can just buy whatever's next. Because I don't want to have to, but I will have to. And I really don't want to. That would piss me off a lot. But hey, I am one of the weirdos who actually buys games on Xbox. But Newegg, they cycle those deals quite often, though they're more typically $10 off. And then sometimes, if you're not in a rush for it, you can keep waiting for them to cycle through it again. You can typically get one of those deals a week, but a lot of the times it's $10 off 50, or I mean $5 off 50. It's 10% off. So $5 off 50 or $10 off 100. Sometimes 12. This is the first time in a while they put 15 off of 100 for eShop. It's usually when they try to go a little deeper, it's usually 12% off. I know because I am a deal checker. My friends know that I am paying attention, because money is not something that grows on trees in the Kuznets household, nor does it do such in many households. So, always good to be able to save money where and how you can. I do it by not going out ever, so I don't go out to eat, don't go out to the theater, don't do anything. My biggest vice, you might think it's gaming. My biggest vice is probably, and I think a few of you would know, it's physical media for movies specifically. And TV shows, but mostly movies. It gets really annoying though when various companies and boutique labels constantly re-release something that I already have on 4K, or they do it again that's already been on 4K, but now this one has a new audio commentary, and I'm like, y'all know how much I love audio commentaries. It's my favorite special feature. Why are you doing this? Now I have to buy it. Ugh. Driving me nuts. I don't need fucking 7 copies of this movie because they all have unique fucking... What the hell? All right, that's enough meandering and whatnot, though. Let us get on to what I've been playing, starting with Highlanders: New Shores. So this is a puzzly, kind of chill city building game. And it reminds me a lot, if y'all remember, a game I talked about, I think a few weeks ago, Preservation, where you were placing these hexagonal tiles down that created new biomes, and then you would put various types of wildlife in them, and if you mix and match things, you get extra points and bonuses and boons and all that jazz. This is a lot like that, but instead of it being about nature and biomes and all that, it's about building cities. And the way you do this is by drawing cards, just like in Preservation. And you are trying to get a certain score bonus with the cards you have, and then that'll allow you to draw another set of cards, and so on and so forth, until you reach enough points to progress to the next random level. And it's just a lot of chill, relaxing fun. It is what I wanted out of Preservation. It has a great look to it. It has a very nice, varied color palette depending on the area you're in. You can be in a volcanic area, a foresty area, a more seaside area, and I think maybe 3 others. But you get these cards, and when you draw, you'll get one of 2 options. They'll always give you 2 options to choose from of various types of buildings. So maybe you want farming adjacent buildings, or city adjacent buildings, seaside adjacent buildings, mill buildings, so on and so forth. There's a handful of different types of sets to draw your cards from. And then you'll get the various buildings of those, and you will be able to position them in various ways to get the most out of them. So with a city deck, you'll get this extra large building, mansion type thing. And then you build around that in certain ways to get the most points out of the other city buildings. Or you place a farm down and then you place haystacks near it and align them in a certain way. And if you position them ideally, you'll get extra points and so on and so forth. And then there are certain things, like maybe a city doesn't want to be close to a mill or whatever. So you have to make it so that you're not, because you can lose points as well if you place things in unideal ways. But it's all pretty straightforward. The tutorial doesn't really give you the best grasp of how to do well in the game. It mainly teaches you just how to play it. So at first, there's probably going to be a lot of trial and error. I wasn't able to access the leaderboard or anything because I was playing it pre-release, and in some cases, I don't know if this is just an Xbox thing, the game has to be played offline, no achievements, no leaderboards if such a thing exists, and so on. So that is something I can't speak of. But I really liked playing it. There's a sandbox mode too if you just want to chill out and build and not have to worry about getting the score, because you have to reach a certain score to get another draw of cards and so on and so forth. And then once you hit an even greater score in the current area, in the current level you're in, you'll be able to move on to the next area. You don't have to do it right away, but once you do that, you'll get whatever bonuses you get for certain things you did during the building process that are added to your total score, and then you move on and start fresh, essentially, in a new area. The loop of the game, that gameplay loop of the main mode, the high score mode, and then it's always slightly random. And with that, what it reminds me of most, oddly enough, is Threes on, well, they did port it to Xbox, I believe, in consoles, but most people would have played it on their mobile device. It reminds me of that loop a lot, of starting out with a small space and then constantly building upon what is currently there with new cards and creating bigger stacks that give you bigger bonuses, and just building upon what you currently have there with new cards and so on, and going through that loop of trying to get a high score. And based on certain RNG things, maybe you'll have a bad run, and that can happen here. But it's fun to always start over and try again. Even if you have a bad run, it's satisfying to restart. Yeah, that's Islanders New Shore. Pretty solid little fun chill time. Next, there's Klaus Lee Thunderballs. This is an action platformer that's all about getting through levels as fast as you can. You're a dude with a jetpack and what was it? You have a little gun on you, but I forget what it does. If it just blows air, because you can use it to, or is it a drill type gun or a little laser gun? I think it is. It doesn't have a long reach, but you can use it to take down brittle walls that take quite a while to destroy, or you can use TNT. You can also use it to kill various enemies in these cavernous areas. The game is comprised of 3 different areas. Your kind of lost temple-ish ruins, underground cavernous areas, an icy area, and then a secret labs area. They all function relatively the same, with additional types of hazards, whether it be lasers or guided missiles, bugs and creatures, spiders, gators, bats, so on and so forth. And The objective of each level is to reach, I think it's just a miner that you're rescuing, and you're trying to do it as fast as you can. Your jetpack has a certain amount of fuel in it, and I believe you use this also when you're using your weapon. But the fun of the thing, of the game, and I had a lot of fun with it, is in trying to complete these levels as fast as possible. So you'll have locked doors that you have to unlock through finding the keys. There's not a lot of puzzly things to it. It's not a lot of, oh, where is this? It's just about finding the route, and it's a lot of trial and error and learning levels to learn the best, well, not so much the best route, but knowing the route and how to navigate it as fast as possible, because you have your jetpack, but you can't overuse it in certain spaces. And then they will have things like spikes at the top of or on ceilings, so that you can't just hover through an area that might have lava on the ground. So you have to kind of turn it on and off to get through a space, but then you have to be fast. You can't be too slow, because maybe there's also a gator there that'll jump up and grab you. Stuff like that. But the fun of the game for me is trying to get through a level as fast as possible. You don't have to get through a level fast to complete it and move on, but to get the goal, which can't remember if medals grant you anything specific, but my favorite levels, and there's also there are a lot of levels that are built from the developers. I think each area is made of close to 40, somewhere between 30 and 40. So there's a lot of levels there to get through, and especially if you want to go for gold medals on all of them, because it's going to take perfection to get through the levels and reach the miner in the correct speed. And I think I was about to say this and I got to the included levels. There's also a level editor that I didn't really dabble with, and with that, obviously, is the ability to download and play user-created levels. Obviously, as with any game like this that has such a system in it, the levels range in quality wildly. And there's a little finickiness to it, at least currently. I had to quit out the game entirely because it wasn't working at all the first time I tried using them. And then I wasn't able to rate ones when I finished them, so a little wonky, but it's nice that exists, that is there, and gives the game the potential of an endless amount of content. But it has crossplay levels, and I don't feel like there were that many. I don't know if there was just these are the hot ones that just came out, or if I was seeing everything in the default screen. But for me, I really like the game. I think it plays very well. What I love most, or the types of levels I enjoy most, are the long ones. Because the short ones they're not as exciting or challenging, just in the sense that it doesn't take that long to get through. And so if you screw up near the end, die near the end, redoing them isn't that, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're playing a level that is over a minute in length, a minute may not seem like a long time, but when you are trying to complete this level and get through it as fast as possible, and maybe you're having your best run ever, and then you flub it at the end, you do something stupid at the end, and have to restart, that really hits you in the chest. But for me, it hits you in the chest in a good way, where you're like, oh man, I almost had it that time, and I know what I need to do, and I'm going to do it this time. And maybe you screw up again, maybe you screw up even earlier. But that cycle of retrying, it's not easy to pull off and make that something you enjoy doing. But I think Klaus Lee manages to do that. The downfall, the one negative of the game that is going to, I don't know if it's so long that it will turn any person off, but I think it's long enough to be noted and was long enough that I took note of it and was a little frustrated by it. When you restart, when you die and have to restart, one, you can turn off the death animation, which I'm sure will lower sometimes. Why is it hot in here? It's not even hot outside. Maybe it's because the air hasn't been on. I have this light fan. I am sweating in here, all right? I almost said I'm gonna put on a sweater so I can wear a sweater because I just want to wear a sweater. Or a sweatshirt specifically. I would have been dead at this point. But I timed it, and it takes roughly 3 seconds when you die and press the restart button for it to load back up at the beginning of a level. 3 seconds may not seem like a long time at all, and it's not really. However, it's long enough to notice and long enough to be slightly frustration. I wish it was an instant retry. I don't know why it isn't. I mean, I'm sure there are issues. I'm sure it's not easy to just to recycle, refresh, start a level over with everything resetted. So that's a little disappointing. That's my biggest gripe with the game, is just the fact that on these levels where I may want to keep going after a challenge, try to go after a gold medal, if I keep failing by a little bit or something happens or this or that, I wish the retry was instant as opposed to the 3-second wait. Yeah, other than that, really enjoyed my time with Klaus Lee. Thunderballs. And that I think is on all platforms. Next is Exo-Calibre? Exo-Calibre. This is a very simple shmup, very colorful, very fun, but very short, and not much reason to replay it. You do unlock additional characters that have all their own distinct weapon types. Their main weapons. There aren't any kind of special weapons. So there is that, but if all you care about is achievements and whatnot, you'll get all the achievements in one successful run. There's a story mode with unlimited continues and lives, and then an arcade mode that is more classic in nature with limited lives and all that jazz. And the gameplay consists of going through, there's also a boss rush mode, but the gameplay consists of going, it's a vertical scrolling shmup, down up, where you're taking on enemies, of course, and you have your base attack, and then a boost, which you can boost through enemy projectiles and through enemies, and a melee attack that kind of works like a dash. And you could, so melee in side directions. You can't really boost in side directions, so you can boost diagonally. That you really just are going to boost forward, but you can melee in pretty much any direction, and it's a short maybe 3 character length attack, dash, if even that. But it does allow you flexible maneuverability, but also it will parry, deflect enemy projectiles back the direction they came, which is very useful, obviously, in the more hectic situations where you are taking on lots of bullets, lots of enemies, and also especially in boss fights when they are just pounding you with bullets. There's not much more to say about it. I can't remember if the music was any good. I think these games often, the music is something you think about. But it plays well. In between levels, you earn money through playing the levels. Some enemies will just drop these like nuts that you destroy and gain some currency from, and then you'll also gain currency from beating each level, finishing the boss. And then you can use this on upgrades for that specific run. So you can increase your firepower, your speed, your health, how many hits you can take before you lose a life and your lives. I went all damage, all in my weapon first, and that seemed like the ideal thing to spend it all, and then on my health, and I didn't care about the other two options. Yeah, it's a fun shmup. It's just that I don't see much reason to play it after I beat it the one time. Again, you will unlock additional characters that have unique weapons to them, but you're just going to play through the game again. And for me, I don't think there are online leaderboards. There could be, but getting all the achievements is just kind of it's a dual-edged sword. I love achievements. I love getting them. But when I get them all in a game, I can't help but feel like I have no reason to keep playing it unless it's a game I love. Especially, and this isn't falling there. This is just a good time. This makes a good session, a good half hour of play or so, which is how long it probably took me. Maybe if I want to be generous, an hour, but no longer than an hour. That is again though Exo-Calibre. Chronicles of the Wolf is a Castlevania-like, in a Metroidvania-esque structure, but really very much so following the Castlevania frame of things than Metro. Just in its aesthetic, in its animations. Your walk animation is so Castlevania. The music, the vibe, everything about it is very Castlevania encoded. And it's okay. I didn't love it so much. I didn't love the exploration all that much. More so than anything. And I know this is a specific gripe with a specific weapon, but I also didn't love the way it played in general. It was okay. But specifically, you can purchase a blunderbuss. It's expensive in the store. It's one of the few weapons available at the start. It does a lot of damage. But what I did know about the blunderbuss is that, one, I kind of figure this, it's a one-shot gun. So you fire it and then you have to reload. But because it's this one-shot weapon, it's not the most useful against enemies unless they're specifically stuck on the ground. And there's no quick... I think what would have really helped me out and made me keep playing if there was some kind of multiple loadout, multiple setup for my character, and I could quickly switch between the two so that I could switch to my blunderbuss when I wanted a ranged weapon and I was fighting an enemy that would be easy to attack with it, and then I could switch back quickly to my sword and use that in the majority of fights. You can't do that. So if you want to switch out, you have to go into the menus, go to the equip screen, equip it, scroll down to where it is and do all that. That's tedious. You're not going to do that, obviously. But what I hate about the blunderbuss is that it is this one-shot gun and you have to reload it. When you're reloading, which takes probably north of a second to do, the animation and everything, when you are reloading, you're vulnerable. You can't cancel out of a reload. I don't think you can. I don't remember being able to. And you are vulnerable that entire time. So you'll shoot a bullet, and then for a little bit north of a second, you're going to be vulnerable to any and all attacks. And that sucks. That's frustrating. But what's even more frustrating is that I didn't realize he was loading at first, reloading the gun, because the animation to me looks more like the dude has the gun and he shoots it, bang, and then he's like, what did this? That's what this thing does? He looked to me like he was confused by what just happened. It's like he fired the gun for the first time. He's like, that's what this does? It shoots the thing and oh, okay, let's do that again. And then you do it again. That's what this does? No. I thought it did. I mean, I shot it the first time and it did that. And I thought maybe that was just a mistake, but I guess this is what it does. And then you shoot it a third time. It's like, oh, shut the front door. It really does do that. Oh, I can't believe it. I thought maybe there was just one time is a charm, and second times it does some harm, and the third time it would just do something else. But no, it did it again. And then you shoot it a fourth time, and it's like, oh, that's what this does. And you are just sitting there thinking to yourself, that's what it does. Fucking stop being all fucking mesmerized by it, you fucking piece of shit. So that was my experience with the Chronicles of the Wolf. I was just like, it's okay, but I don't know, just didn't quite hit the mark. Next, though, is Dead of Darkness. Speaking of games that are very much so following the formula of games of old, this is a very close camera-esque 2D pixel game that is designed to be like classic Resident Evil games, where you can only save in designated rooms, no auto saving, no anything, no limited saves at least, and you have, I think, limited storage, but I think you kind of expanded. But there are storage containers that you can drop things in and use and all that. And you are playing a detective, I believe, who has been called to this island by someone, you don't know why, and you're there to investigate. And when you get there, you find some blood with this new nurse who just started working there as well. And shit starts happening, and then zombies come out. You don't know they're zombies at first. They're just like, oh, there's like these monsters, these humanoid monsters or whatever. And that's the basic setup. However, it feels very stuck in wanting to be classic Resident Evil like that. It doesn't do anything particularly new or special. And it doesn't do the best job of mimicking those games. I think that game I played a few years ago for Attack the Backlog, I did on a whim. Something like Dust something. You could look on the YouTube, on the podcast feed and find it. But I think that game did a better job. It was more of a chibi-ish polygonal look to it. But one of the things that's really bad about this game is that it is very, very talky to start with. Anyone who knows me, if you've been a long-time listener as well, you know that I do not like games that dump a lot of story and talking on you at the get-go. And this is maybe 85% of the first 30 minutes or so is just talking with wildly varied voice acting of so many accents. So you got American voice actors, you got British accents, you got an Australian accent, I think. There's no real consistency. I don't know where this is supposed to take place. I don't know what's fucking going on. They don't sound like they're all recorded in the same place, so they're of varying qualities and levels, and it's all over the place. And there's just so much of it, and it's not interesting. So that was an immediate negative first impression. And then as I played the game, got to actually play the game, and just searching door by door by door. Oh, this one you need a lockpick. This one you need a lockpick. This one you need a lockpick. Oh, now this one you need this specific key. So on and so forth, the usual thing. It was just very basic, straightforward. It didn't do anything for me. And I'm someone who really likes those classic Resident Evil games. My favorite Resident Evil game is the remake of the first game. I like that over RE2 remake, RE3 remake, RE4, RE5, RE0. Are those all the ones I've played? I have not finished RE4. But yeah, that is Dead of Darkness. Dungeons of Paint is a survival twin stick shooter where weapons will constantly spawn in these various spaces, and you're just taking on waves of enemies with, it's essentially paintball. That's the whole point of it. And with your various types of paintball made weapons, whether they be a paintball grenade launcher or a shotgun or an Uzi, assault rifle, pistol, laser gun, so on and so forth. No, there's no laser gun in here. Don't think I'm thinking of the other game. You're just taking on waves of enemies. The more you quote unquote kill, they'll drop something that allows you to level up and get back a health point. It's okay, but the whole paint thing just seems like a weird visual gimmick that doesn't actually add anything. So while you're able to paint the ground through attacking enemies, or you can even just paint it when nobody's around, it doesn't do anything. I wish the paint aspect of the game was more of a functional thing than just a visual thing, so that maybe laying down green paint would make enemies move slowly through it, or red paint would do damage to them, blue paint would, I don't know, make them slip or something. I wish there was something to the paint instead of it just being a pure visual thing, because it made the game seem like it was going to have more personality, more of a unique flair than it actually does. It's just this wave-based survival twin stick shooter. Just survive as long as you can in these levels that aren't different outside of looking different. So there wasn't much to it. It plays fine. It's fine. I got all the achievements in that one as well. It was fairly easy to do that. It was just survive more than 5 minutes, I think, in the first 3 areas, and kill a certain number of enemies, do this, do that. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. That is Dungeons of Paint. Then quickly, Zombies Overloaded is another type of wave-based thing, but it's specifically wave-based, not time-sensitive, really. And you're taking on waves of zombies in a single screen area. Weapons will spawn in, and a few power-ups like speed and steroids, and you're just taking down enemies in a very unpleasant looking game. Visually, it is very reminiscent of Xbox Live indie games, if you remember that, on the 360. So stuff like, I would even say that I Made a Game with Zombies in it looks better, but there were games of this nature released in that space, in that framework, that looked like this. And so it's not very pretty to look at. The shooting doesn't feel all that great either. You have reason to keep playing it though, outside of other games where you're actually unlocking new skins, you're earning currency through finding gold coins during runs, or finding bones from kills, collecting those bones, and then converting 100 of them to 25 gold coins. Rinse and repeat. That allows you to get some permanent upgrades, like to your damage, to your health, etc. And then again, the skins that I don't know if there's any bonuses to them or if they're just visual things. But that at least gives you a reason to want to keep playing and replaying. But the negative visuals definitely harmed it. But that is Zombies Overloaded. And then the last one is Dustwind Resistance. This also doesn't look that great. It's a real-time tactics type of game that has a similar system to something like, I guess, a Dragon Age Origins or a KOTOR, where you can fight in real time and work it like a twin stick shooter kind of, but there's RNG to everything. So even though you are aiming, it'll still say when you're aiming at an enemy 45%, and that's your percentage likelihood of hitting them. Or you can go into the time stoppage tactical thing, and when you have multiple characters in your party, you can say, okay, this one I want you to move over here and then attack this enemy. This one, move here, attack this enemy, do this type of attack, aim for the head, so on and so forth. But it doesn't look all that great. It doesn't translate well to a gamepad, to a controller. It's clunky on a controller. The story and voice acting is not particularly interesting. And yeah. The tutorial, very drawn out, boring, dull. And then the thing I found amusing, though, is in the first real mission, when you're returning and there's been an attack at your home, your home outpost, whatever. You come across three people leaving, and they're all super souped up and whatnot. And when you confront them, you have two options: attack them or let them go. If you attack them, they just immediately one-shot all your party members, and it's game over, and then you can respawn. It has a generous autosave and checkpoint system. But I thought that was amusing. I always like that kind of... I like games that have those kind of... If you want to, in your own mind, have your own kind of lore thing, whatever, an instant fail thing where you try something and there's no chance of succeeding. I like that. I think that's a funny little thing. As long as they have some kind of autosave system or checkpoint system so that you don't do that and have no way of knowing that is going to be the outcome and lose a lot of progress. As long as they have that in place. But yeah, it just, again, doesn't look good, is clunky with a controller, story is unengaging, and disregarding the actual clunky controls, I don't think the systems are all that well implemented. That is, again, Dustwind Resistance. And that will do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, a private Discord channel with some fancy Discord roles, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there depending on your tier. Or you can just support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. Speaking of those random drops, I'm thinking of doing some top 10 lists here and there, like my top 10 favorite open worlds in games and so on and so forth. So if those sound interesting to you, that's what the Patreon's for. But in addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye. It's go time. Go daddy. It's go time. Go